Wernher von Braun, an enigmatic figure of the 20th century. To some, he's a trailblazer, a visionary, a genius. To others, an unscrupulous opportunist, prepared to make a pact with the devil if it suits his plans. For Hitler, he designs the notorious V-2 rocket, the wonder weapon that claims thousands of lives. "20 years later, in the iciest period of the Cold War, Wernher von Braun builds the Saturn V moon rocket for Kennedy. The most powerful machine ever made by man. When the super booster catapults the first men to the moon, von Braun's rocket becomes a wonder weapon of the Cold War. With it, the Americans win the moon race against Russia.
Roger 1202, we copy it. Stand by for go flight. Okay. Eagle looking great. Roger 1202, we copy it.
Wernher von Braun hatte so etwas von einem strahlenden Siegfried.
Wernher von Braun was a kind of charismatic Siegfried figure. Blonde, Prussian, and from a noble bureaucratic family. He had a confident air and was a scientist and a gentleman.
War ein Wissenschaftler, war ein Herr.
To me, von Braun was a crusader. He had an objective that he wanted to reach, a goal that he wanted to get to. And his whole activities were in that direction.
He behaved like a traitor. He smashed up half of London and other cities, and he went crawling off to America with Germany's secrets and became a hero in America.
I think he suppressed a great deal. He had to.
A life devoted to space. The rise and fall of a man who earned his living making rockets. Wernher von Braun was born in Wösitzposen in 1912, the second son of an aristocratic family. When this picture was taken, no one could have imagined the glittering career that lay ahead for him as a pioneer of rocketry. Scions of Prussian nobility normally faced a destiny of a very different kind.
The Browns were sound Protestants, but not intellectuals. They were farmers and soldiers, depending on the times. Werner's inquiring, analytical mind came from his mother's side.
Das Analytische, das kam von Werners Mutter.
A young man spattered with mud. It's 1930. The boy of noble birth is now 18 and has had a passionate interest in rockets for 5 years. It all started with a book called The Rocket into Planetary Space by Hermann Oberth. The story goes that von Braun was so inspired by what he read that he was transformed from a dunce at maths into a model student. The dream of flying to the stars is born. Early pioneers. Von Braun is thrilled by the idea of conquering outer space, flying to the moon and on to Mars. All his pocket money goes on his passion for rockets. Rocket fanatics. The prophet Hermann Oberth in the middle, surrounded by his disciples. Wernher von Braun is at the edge of the group. He's still a peripheral figure at this point. Early footage of the artillery testing grounds in Berlin, where the blue-blooded youngster conducts his experiments. He's a long way from reaching the stars. Bags of enthusiasm, but nearly everything else in short supply, especially money. A chronic lack of cash presents a permanent obstacle to ambition until the military takes an interest. In the new missiles, Army commanders finally see a chance to get their hands on a real weapon again. After the First World War, defeated Germany was banned from having heavy weapons. Now the military is looking feverishly for ways to get round the list of armaments prohibited by the Versailles Treaty. To the ambitious strategists, rockets seem perfect. They still have to make do with cardboard tanks and dummy cannons. Von Braun quickly finds access to the deep-pocketed patrons in uniform. He immediately senses that he'll have to cooperate with the military if he wants to pursue his expensive hobby.
It was the only way to get money. No one else, no civilian agencies, no film companies, no one was prepared to put up money for that.
The military look closely at the Kummersdorf crackpots and feel that Wernher von Braun is the man they want. Young, ambitious, and prepared to accept without question any rules imposed by military strategists.
They singled the young man out and said, from now on, rocket research is a military matter, i.e. confidential. Anyone who doesn't accept that will not be allowed to work on official research programs. Everyone else, if they want to stay in research, has to come over to us, to the military.
In 1932, the patriotic young space visionary signs a contract of employment with the Ordnance Office that enables him to carry on working on rockets at Kummersdorf full-time. But these are rocket weapons. The German armed forces are not particularly interested in the conquest of space. 4 years later, the young idealist sets off for the Baltic in search of a suitable place for the new rocket testing site planned by the army. A place more remote and more private than Kummersdorf Forest near Berlin. In the meantime, Hitler is in power, and it has been decided that anything to do with the new rocket technology is strictly confidential. Nothing must leak out about Hitler's plans for rearmament and conquest. The moon over Peenemünde. In 1936, Werner's mother, Emmy von Braun, suggests Peenemünde as a possible rocket testing site. Within a year, the military is clearing space for a gigantic armament center. In March 1937,